This is Geometry Lesson 8.5, Law of Sines, Law of Cosines. Going to use these two formulas when you're not dealing with right triangle trig. All right, for any triangle ABC with side lengths ABC, the law of sines is sine A over A equals sine B over B equals sine C over C. Now, you can obviously only do two of these at a time, so a lot of times you'll just see the law of sines written like that, and it doesn't matter how you set it up if you do sine over A or A over sine A. Just be consistent in how you set it up. All right, you can use the law of sines to solve a triangle if you are given two angle measures in any side length or two side lengths in any non-included measure. So basically, you're just going to use the law of sines if you can't use the law of cosines. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, so we're trying to find FG. So that's X. All right, so remember, 32 is across from X. So we would say sine 32 over X equals, we know that's 39 there, so sine 39 is across from 40, and that's how you'd set that up. So you're going to cross multiply. Now, keep this in your calculator. Don't round till the end. You can use your last answer function. So I'm going to go 40 sine 32, hit enter. Then I'm going to, if I set that up and cross multiply, I would have X times sine 39. So then I would divide by sine 39, and that gives me a side length of 33.68. Okay, so keep these in your calculator. Don't round until the bitter end. If you're finding a side, still round to the nearest hundredth. If you're finding an angle, still round to the nearest degree. All right, let's try that again. Use the law of sines. We're going to find Q this time. So Q is there, and 6 is across from it, that side. So we would say sine Q, because we're finding an angle this time, over 6 equals sine 51 over 8. All right, so this time if I cross multiply, I'm going to go 6 sine 51 equals 8 sine Q. Now, I'm finding an angle, so my last step is going to be inverse. So I would divide both sides by 8. So on my calculator, I'm going to go 6 sine 51, hit enter, divided by 8, hit enter. Now that's stored as my last answer. So now you're going to go second sine and then second answer. Use the last answer function of your calculator. That is second negative sine. Should spit out 35.65 to you, which we can round to 36 degrees. All right, don't round until the very, very end and keep it in your calculator. All right. All right, so that's the law of sines. If the law of sines cannot be used to solve every triangle, if you have a side angle side relationship, you can use the law of cosine. Now we're really only going to focus on this one, and we're going to make C what we're missing, either our missing side or our missing angle. We're going to use big C there for what we're missing. So big C is the angle, little c is the side. So to set up the law of cosines, you can use it to find a side length if you're given side angle side and you're trying to find the missing side, or if you're giving 3 side lengths and you're trying to find a missing angle. That's when you would use the law of cosines. If you don't have that, then you're just going to use the law of sines. All right, so you can see that we have side, angle, side here, and we're trying to find ED. So let's call that little c, which means F became big C. Now your law of sines and your law of cosines are on the note sheet for this chapter, so make sure you're looking at that. So we're going to set this up, c squared, and then a and b don't matter. So c squared equals 18 squared plus 16 squared minus 2 times 18 times 16 times the cosine of 21. Now that seems like a lot, but you can actually type that whole thing into your calculator. So 18 squared plus 16 squared minus 2 times 18 times 16 times the cosine of 21. So then you get 42.25 and some change. But this is c squared, so before you finish then, you want to take the square root of your answer, so leave it in your calculator, and you get 6.5. All right, so that last answer function again is its second negative sign, and that should give you your last answer of your calculator. But always use C as your missing stuff when you're dealing with the law of cosines. All right, law of cosines 2 is right here, and this is on your formula sheet. But a squared plus b squared minus c squared over 2ab equals the cosine of c. So we'll use that one. I have that on your sheet. So when you're given side, 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 and we're trying to find angle K, we'll still make C our missing side, which means this is our little c, and then A and B don't matter. Okay, so we're going to go cosine C equals A squared plus B squared minus C squared all over 2 times 15 times 10. 2 times AB. I think I got that formula right. Okay, so once again, just get this figured out as a fraction. So we got cosine C equals 15 squared plus 10 squared minus 8 squared. It's 261 over 2 times 15 times 10 is 300. Now realize you're finding an angle. So to find an angle, your last step needs to be inverse cosine. So just take the inverse cosine of the fraction, 261 over 300. 29.5. So we round it to the nearest whole degree. All right, so law of sines, law of cosines 1 for finding a side, and law of cosines 2 for finding an angle. 1 would be here, where I was going to use the C1, and 2 would be here. Use the C1, this one, and this one, and those are on your formula sheet as you're working through. Okay? All right. Don't round. Use the last answer function. Talked about that. All right. A sailing club has planned a triangular race course as shown in the diagram. How long is the leg at BC? How many degrees must they turn at C? So round sides to the 100th and angles to the nearest 10th. So if you're looking here, or angles to the nearest degree. As you're looking here, you can see we're going to try to find BC. Well, actually, we're going to say that's our little c, because side angle side means we're going to use law of cosines. Okay, so that's big C, little c, just for the formula. Like the letters don't matter, they're arbitrary. So we'll go little c squared equals 3 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 3 times 4 times the cosine of 45. So 3 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 3 times 4 times the cosine of 45 is 8.02. But remember, when I do law of cosines, I got to do the square root of that. So square root of my answer. C is 2.83. Okay. Then we have to find angle. And I believe, yeah, they wanted us to find this angle here. So now we've got all three sides. We can use law of sines. Okay. Because we've got an angle in there, so we can use sine 45 over 2.83 equals sine big C in that case for this angle over 4. Okay. So we're going to cross multiply 4 sine 45 divided by 2.83. And then remember, we keep that in our calculator. We're finding an angle here. So our last step is going to be inverse sine of our answer, which gives you about 88 degrees. All right, so get some practice for law of sines, law of cosines. That's a wrap.